They do. I can be confused. And that's part of the education we're reaching out. So if I say a G10, the following program was recorded at Aberdeen Group's annual Supply Chain Management Summit in Chicago. I'm pleased to welcome Managing Editor of Supply Chain Brain, Bob Bowman.
We're going to get an introduction to GS1, and a standards initiative that calls itself the Global Language of Business. I'm joined by Grant W. Hunter, Vice President of Education and Solution Partners for GS1. Grant, welcome.
Thank you very much, Bob.
Thank you for joining us. Why don't you start out by telling us what is GS1?
GS1 came into being about 5 years ago. Most people know us by our former names, the Uniform Code Council or the European Article Numbering Association. 5 years ago, EAN and UCC merged together to create GS1, the global network. So GS1 Global is based out of Brussels. That's where the standards process takes place. GS1 US is the member organization for the United States, and there's 108 member organizations in 108 countries around the world, all working together to drive supply chain efficiencies and sustainability through the standards.
What industries and what types of companies do they represent?
The place where most people see our standards is going to be in the retail, general merchandise, grocery, CPG. We've now been picked up in healthcare, pharmaceutical, food services as well. So you're seeing the adoption of the standards being driven to other places where they can see the same benefits of unique identification and sharing information. Does
your membership continue to grow, or is it pretty much in place for the task that needs to be carried out?
It continues to grow, both by going into new initiatives. Recently in the U.S., we've with the Produce Marketing Association, we rolled out the Produce Traceability Initiative, so you're seeing a lot more produce companies come on board. In the healthcare industry, you're seeing GTIN and GLN sunrise dates around the standards around trade identification numbering and global location numbering. More people coming on through that. And anytime a new company comes and wants to sell something through Walmart or JCPenney's or Kroger's, they're going to need a GS1 company prefix to build the GTIN, which is put into that UPC barcode that everybody knows.
So this set of standards really is the standards that are governing global trade today in those areas?
They are. So everybody knows us as the barcode company because the UPC barcode or the EAN globally is anybody who buys anything at a store knows that barcode. But the system delves much deeper than just the point of sale on the UPC to location identification, to serialized shipping container codes, which integrate into an EDI transaction so people know what is in the ASN and what's in the box they're receiving through the whole supply chain.
Now, one of your more recent initiatives is the Solution Partner Initiative. Tell us a little bit about what that is.
Well, in the United States, we've been focused on how do we engage with solution providers to drive the awareness, adoption, and usage of the standards. We are a not-for-profit. We help manage the system, but we don't have the software for people to use it. We're not the EDI provider. We're not the ERP system that's running the company. What we need to do is make sure that those solution providers out there like SAP or Oracle or Motorola and Avery Dennison or the barcode consultants who are out there helping these people figure out how to build a GTIN, how to encode a UPC in a barcode and put it into their packaging, understand the standards, the value of the standards, that can help people implement them properly.
So it's not like you have to sell the case to the solution providers. They're already on board, right?
In many cases they are. In many cases they've figured it out themselves and they are not always using the standards properly. So we've built education and certifications into the program, but we're also giving them access to our membership in the U.S., which is over 200,000 companies.
How would you rate the awareness of the shipping community? And when I say that, I mean manufacturers, retailers, distributors, and the like. Awareness of GS1 and its work.
People know GS1 and its work. They may not know us as GS1. They still may know us as Uniform Code Council or EAN. So what we're doing is trying to make sure people understand who GS1 is, that we're still doing the same thing. They know our standards. They may not know us.
So the Solution Partners thing is a new initiative, correct? When was it launched?
We've been working with them in pockets. We just launched it in February to our existing partners.
February
to
of
get
2011.
Of 2011, to our existing partners to get them on board. Those include all the partners from our EPC Global US solution provider program. So anybody who's working with Gen 2 tags in the US, the Motorola's, the Avery Dennisons, the RPACs, the different people who are working with those solutions, as well as all of our barcode people. So Loftware, who does label management, is just coming on board, and Siegel Scientific, who has software for Bartender for doing labels, as well as those consultants who are helping create the graphic reproductions like Barcode Graphics from Chicago or Paper Chase up in the Northwest.
So you feel like you're continuing to pick up traction in this effort?
It's amazing how much we have. You pay a little attention to them. They realize the value, they see where it's going, and we're working hard with them. EDI people as well.
Is it tied into the need for compliance as well? I mean, trade compliance is one motivation for companies to adopt these standards?
It's a huge one. When you have a Walmart or a Kroger saying you need to have your GS1, your UPC, your GS1, your G10 on your product, that helps drive it. But the key is making sure they drive it correctly. There's problems out there with barcodes that can't scan properly, or people not using the numbers properly, and that creates a problem for the retailer and the supply chain. So our job is to help educate them, make sure the solution partners understand that so they can help implement the standards properly.
But in addition to vendor compliance with retail requirements, I'm wondering at a level of government regulations on global trade and monitoring and tracking visibility, whether GS1 figures in there as well.
We are working with the World Customs Organization. I was just at our global forum in Brussels, and one of the directors of the World Customs Organization was there speaking to us. We also, in the United States, are working with people like the FDA to help understand how pedigree in pharmaceuticals, like the California e-pedigree law and the Food Safety Modernization Act, how the GS1 standards can support industry in implementing those things.
It's not instead of, it's in conformance with those.
It's a system to help them do that. So if you're going to do pedigree, how do you do pedigree? So we've been working with the pharmaceutical manufacturers, the distributors, the pharmacies and GPOs and hospitals to truly model the whole supply chain. We're facilitating, they're doing the work with us, and then create models where we can say, okay, if we change these things, how can we supplement what you're doing to create pedigree but also to gain benefits? So we're using EPCs, which is our physical event data standard from EPC RFID, we're now able to provide those physical event data to enable pedigree to happen. But now the industry sees what it can do, and they're actually re-architecting their supply chains around it.
Mm-hmm. Boy, those acronyms really roll off your tongue.
They do, I
that
guess.
That can be confusing, though, for a community being inundated with all of those different terms. But
True.
But you feel like you're getting that message across.
And that's part of the education and what we're reaching out. So if I say a G10, it's a Global Trade Identification Number. What we think of at point of sale as a UPC number, globally is called the G10. A GLN is a global location number, so you're identifying a location that you're shipping something to or you're buying from. A serialized shipping container code, an SSCC, ties along with an ASN transaction, an EDI advanced shipping notice, to help identify what is in a shipment. So you can scan a 128 barcode and tie it to the SSCC to know where it is. EPC is the electronic product code. They're the EPC global standards for Gen 2 UHS and now HF RFID. EPCAS is the EPC information services. How do you share information around that physical event data that's read?
What about any other key initiatives that GS1 is involved in right now?
Obviously, I've talked about in healthcare the e-pedigree for 2015. We're also working with the healthcare industry around GLN Sunrise in 2010. Hospitals starting to use GLN in their orders, and G10 Sunrise coming this year, next year, which is Global Trade Identification Number. Sisters of Mercy just did a press release talking about the use of GS1 identifiers with people like Becton Dickinson are enabling them to get a perfect order.
So do you think that standards are sufficient and in place now, or is there more work to be done in terms of coming up with this coherent series of standards for global commerce?
I think that the standards we have for the supply chain, the bulk of them are there. There are use cases we may not be aware of with new initiatives coming forward. And that's why we have the GSMP, our Global Standards Management Process, that works. Last week they were in Brooklyn on a global basis working on the new standards, updating the standards to adopt to where we need to go. Things like for EPC RFID, how do you provide sewn-in tags that can be killed so there's not privacy data that's being affected?
So any guidance on the future of global standards, where it might bring somewhere further down the line?
I think that it's going to keep driving efficiency, sustainability, and safety in the supply chains.
Well, Grant, thank you so much for helping to guide us through the alphabet soup of standards as promulgated by GS1.
Thank you, Bob.
That was Grant Hunter of GS1 giving us insight into international standards for global commerce. Thank you very much for watching.